Hi everyone, Sandman here. This video is brought to you by a donation from CoolLuke99, and here's what he has to say. Hi Sandman, I tripped over one of your videos while researching van living. This is a topic that I'm interested in when I retire and do some traveling. All I can say is wow. I've been living the MGTOW lifestyle for a while now without even knowing what the term was. I'm now 52 years old, I have a college degree, and have always had professional higher than average paying jobs. Probably your average beta. I was also divorced in 2007 with 3 kids, 2 with the ex-wife I married after college, and 1 from a high school girlfriend, which I didn't marry at the time, thank God. I was married for 15 years almost to the day. After the divorce, I scratched my head and said, what the fuck just happened? My kids with her were 9 and 7. She tried to run off with a guy from work 10 years younger than her that in the long run didn't actually pan out. I said F off. Like many guys, I've spent a lot of time and effort to fight to spend quality time with my kids. I have to pay tons of cash to support them as well. You know the story. This is still going on today. Since the divorce, I've dated several women that were past hitting the wall. They couldn't understand my actions. I really don't give a damn about their agenda. I would even tell them that I was never going to get remarried. This would drive them crazy. I can tell you that there's a shitload of 38 to 55-year-old women chasing us single old guys, and they'll never get married. It's kind of like take over the payments. No thank you. 2 years ago I sold my big house and paid off all my debts. Best decision that I ever made. I sold all my crap and moved into a small furnished house that I rent from a buddy. The only things I kept were my tools, as I can actually work construction for a backup profession. My question to you is this: is it too late to take the red pill? And I think many of us have already drunk the red pill Kool-Aid. I don't think I'd fall into your typical demographic, but there are a lot more of us older guys out there than you think. I have a couple of close buddies that roll this way too. Thanks for basically helping me connect the dots. Thank you for the fine work you're doing. Well, CoolLuke99, thanks for your donation as well as your topic request. I think you answered your own question yourself because you managed to learn about women and go your own way without anyone telling you. I've spoken about this before, and I believe that most men do eventually learn about the dark side of female nature, and eventually go their own way if they can when they get into their 50s, 60s, and above. That's when they finally realize they wasted their lives, and doing what they were supposed to never actually brought them the happiness they wanted because they never followed their own dreams. I've also met many older guys in their 60s that got married for the first time while in their 60s. Usually when a man gets into his 60s and was never married before, that's because he wasn't either good looking enough or didn't fit the mold for what the woman wants. But I've also seen those older women chasing such men because they're usually naive, have a lot of money saved up, and tons of assets to provide a nice comfortable retirement for such women. I've even heard some older women at a wedding once say that they were actually targeting older guys that were too old to get it up because those guys were actually financially secure. That way they could get the money and didn't actually have to trade sex for it because the guy was pretty much too old. All they had to do was trade a kiss on the cheek or hold his hand as a companion and then get hundreds of thousands of dollars from that man as well as an upgrade in their lifestyle. Many such men have also been TFL or virgins their entire lives, and what's more tragic than finally finding your granny girlfriend when you can't even let your free willy out and when you can't swim straight? Just the thought of post-wall women preying on impotent grandpas makes me kind of want to shit my depends. It's so gross. But that's the dating dynamic when you get into those particular years. As I was saying, the majority of men eventually take the red pill and learn about female nature, but life passes them by at that point. It's not that it's just too late to take the red pill, it's just it's too late for such men to enjoy the life they could have had if they were 30 and took the red pill then. At that point, they could have actually worked for themselves and retired earlier, or possibly chased their wildest dreams. With regards to your case, CoolLuke99, you're 52 years old, which isn't that old in the grand scheme of things. Your life expectancy is 80 years, so you probably have another good 20 years ahead of you. Your life is simple, so you can do anything that you want at this point. But you're right about all those older women wanting a man to take over all the payments. Even if a woman has a paid-off house, I've seen some women sell their homes and then move in with their new 60-year-old husband into a house and freeload off of him while collecting money off their investments in the bank and then relying on the guy to maintain the house, to heat it, cool it, and simply pay all the bills. She, of course, might give him companionship or occasional female validation, and thus he won't feel so lonely and he won't get depressed. I also think it really depends on the type of guy. Personally, I find that being in a relationship drains my energy, emotional power banks, and I also get less and less lonely as I get older because I know how to keep myself entertained and inspired. I think a lot of older guys have a problem going from blue pill to red pill, even if they understand what's going on, because they function a lot better and are not depressed when women and children are around. I think part of it has to do with individual personality traits and the person's mind. Also, although I've technically never been diagnosed, I honestly believe that I have mild autism or Asperger's syndrome because if I'm around 3 or more people, even if they're friends, I know my mind gets overloaded and stressed out, and if I don't get any downtime, I get severe anxiety. It's been like that my entire life. No matter how much I socialize or put myself into new social situations, the anxiety is always there. Even with therapy and getting out there and meeting new people, I have a very hard time reading people's body language. Also understanding sarcasm and picking up more subtle nuances of nonverbal communication. That's why I've always used communications technologies to get my point across to other people. My mind seems a lot better wired to communicate with images, words, and takes time to process what's actually happening around me. I'll talk to someone and say something stupid, and then 10 minutes later, I will have processed the entire situation and think to myself, why didn't I see what was going on 10 minutes ago? The answer to that is simple. My brain is too busy collecting information and needs the added additional time to do proper analysis, with all the variables. The majority of people process faster because they take less things into consideration, so they're able to respond with their gut reactions. For me, it's never worked that way, because I have to consciously process everything that goes around me with regards to social interactions. I feel safer being alone, and I can often fixate on the same repetitive activity again and again. But the majority of men, especially the older guys I meet, were never like that. They were always social for most of their lives, and even if they realize how bad women are, they can't help but continue to socialize with them and move in with them and marry them because no matter how much the red pill knowledge sinks in, they're like a moth drawn to a flame. They simply can't help it. It's not so much about sexual attraction as much as it's emotional validation that they crave. They crave an old hag to give them a purpose because such men usually haven't learned to think for themselves and become self-sufficient emotionally. But whose fault is that? I honestly think it's women's because they're always obsessed with keeping men in relationships all the time. If a guy out there is single, they try to hook him up or shame him for being alone. When he's with a woman, they criticize him for not treating the woman as nicely as he could. He's shamed to get into a relationship, and then he's shamed once he's in it. For such a man, that shame is the closest thing he knows to love, and that's really sad. Other men only know how to value themselves based on how helpful they are to other people. I would bet you that most guys would go their own way when they get older, but their brains are just too damn well wired to be plow horses. They're like old animals in the zoo. If you set them free in the wild, they don't know how to survive on their own because they've been receiving zoo food for their entire life. I also believe that women instinctively have this drive to constantly keep men under control as plow horses. I think it's something to do with their instincts. When men are younger, you don't actually have to shame them to want to provide and protect because a man's nature does that automatically, for the most part. But as a man ages and his biological imperatives get less and less loud in his own head, that's when she needs to keep beating into his head that he needs a woman or he's going to die all alone and no one's going to take care of him. But the awful truth is that no one cares about him right now, and women simply use a lesser lie to cover a bigger one. The big lie is that she doesn't love you, but the lesser lie is that you're going to die all alone if you don't get married. As I've gotten older and taken my red pills, I can instantly recognize when a woman is trying to shame me into partnering up. Recently my mother was saying you need to find a woman or you won't have any family. That's when I responded by saying that I'll still have my younger brother when I get older, and she also said yes. She couldn't say no because she would be stirring up potential rumors and gossip. But the worst thing is, she's gotten my father to try and get me to get married as well. I think a lot of older guys that were born before second-wave feminism can't go their own way and take the red pill and digest them fully because they never saw the problems with women in their generation like we're seeing in ours. But if they went out into the dating pool and after a few months saw what they had to deal with, then they too would go their own way. But some of the older women are still somewhat respectful. They aren't as badly corrupted as the younger women today. I also think a lot of older guys don't actually want to take the red pill because to do so would be an admission that they spent most of their lives not living for themselves but instead living for others and sacrificing their hopes, dreams, and desires. Many of the older guys don't even know how to be selfish anymore. Red pill knowledge probably won't help them at this point because they're stuck in their ways. That's why the most important thing we can do right now is to basically reach out to men while they're still in their 20s and 30s to teach them about female nature before they get set in their blue pill ways. After that, there isn't really much hope. I see all those guys in their 50s and 60s at corporate Christmas parties sitting at their own tables while the wives sit at other ones. They look and sound beaten down and you can pretty much see the damage is permanent and there's no amount of Prozac in the world that's going to make them feel good about life again. That's the real tragedy here. I don't think it's ever too late to take the red pill, but I do believe that at a certain point, once you learn about female nature and you've been socialized to be a mangina or a white knight long enough, you stay on autopilot and you never snap out of it. You can take the red pill when you get a lot older, but I fear that it may not fully digest. If it does, then you will probably be bitter and angry like old men that I've run into at the bars and clubs. I guess most guys would rather continue to service a woman they absolutely hate rather than take a chance being single in their 50s and 60s. They're afraid of being left alone when in reality it should be the women that are afraid because they're the ones that get things like osteoporosis, and sometimes when they simply stand up, they can break their hips. The reason these women you spoke about earlier, Cool Luke, were so upset that you actually wouldn't marry any of them is because they're the ones that fear getting older and being left alone. Because in the past that meant loneliness, no attention, and a slow solitary death for them. Women don't want to die like that, and that's why they project that scenario on men around them as a form of shame and guilt. Anyways, that's all I've got to say for today. Thanks again, Cool Luke 99, for your donation as well as your topic. Also, don't forget to check out the MGTOW mystery link and like this video. As for everyone else out there, please follow me on Twitter or like me on Facebook to get tomorrow's video today. Thanks for taking your daily dose of red pills. And remember, a red pill a day keeps the freeloading grandmamas away. So enjoy the rest of your day, and cheers.